Alan Brogan was really good at that.
Well, Brogan started
He
it.
invented it.
Yeah, he did.
The GAA Hour is sponsored by Paddy Power. Money back as a free bet on any championship match on live TV. If your losing first goal scorer bet gets a goal.
I'm not finished yet. It took me a long time to get here.
Both players have spoken with each other, and they regret what happened. They've had a frank discussion with each other, and both of them are keen to now focus on getting back their county jerseys.
That these fellas will get such a shell shock next Saturday evening that we'll put them back in their asses for 10 years.
The usual excitement with Mayo, that we predicted this was going to be a good game, and it turned out to be an absolute cracker. 20,000 in Castlebar, more than the Connacht final for a qualifier against Armagh. Yeah, so it was a weird ending to the game. I didn't really understand what was going on with the last free for Armagh. It was pretty much the last kick of the game, and you'd imagine Rian O'Neill was going to come over and he was going to either bomb it straight. It was maybe inside his range. He's got a great kick. But Paddy McKeever came on and Niall Grimley overruled him, took a quick 1-2 and just launched it. A fella who you wouldn't have expected off the outside of the boot from that range. So I don't know what was going on there, because Rian O'Neill walked across like he wanted to take this free.
Yeah, it's a strange one, and you'd be looking, was it discussed with Paddy McKeever what was going on in between the two lads. Another option for me, and I've seen him with now listen, maybe obviously they know, but Ethan Rafferty has a massive boot as
on
well
the left,
on the left as well. Like I seen him up in Queens there or in Georgetown a few years ago, and we played him in a league game, and my God, from halfway line he was putting frees over the bar, like just a massive boot on him. But it's a tough one, you know yourself. You even the one to coming on the outside, but if you meet it on the sweet spot, it looks great. But it's a high percentage shot then trying to kick it on the outside of the boot. From
It definitely
there as well.
is. Rian O'Neill had gone out of it a good bit in the second half. Stephen Cohen had done well on him, and Rian O'Neill was running around the place and he was trying to get on ball. It just wasn't happening for him unless Paddy McKeever came in and says, Rian, you're not playing. It's not your day. You've gone out of it. I don't know.
But also,
Johnny Doyle is here as well, by the way.
But also the other side of it is, from a free taking point of view, Rian O'Neill has got to demand that ball too. Like if maybe he wasn't feeling, you know what, I'm not sure.
Was it again, Johnny? You would know better, but was it a bit too far out and wide?
Maybe, but the referee obviously said that it's not the last kick of the game. So this is another confusing part. So when Grimley got the 1-2, the ref's not going to blow it up inside the 45 as you're attacking. He'll give you that attack. You know what I mean?
In front of
so
him
he just, it was just like a desperate.
Carried it on.
More.
Like he'd more, and maybe someone, or maybe try to get Jamie Clarke on the ball, or come on a loop or something like that. You'd work it into a position.
Yeah.
But that shot, it's a high percentage shot. If you 10 of them with that shot, if he landed 2 or 3, you'd be saying he's doing well.
It was. It definitely was. So Geezer was given out about the referee, which he always does, because Geezer one of those GAA men who takes a pop at the referee after every game. Every game, he's a persecution complex. Now, sometimes I disagree with him. He absolutely has a point this time. Like the 4 minutes of extra time, immediately when you see that watching the game, you're thinking, there's never 4 minutes ever anymore. It's minimum 6-7, especially when both teams empty the benches, and we know it's 30 seconds for a sub. And there was a lot of fellas down, so I just thought 4 is a little bit short. But Kevin McStay did good work on it last night. I was just watching it this morning, and he said, this is ridiculous stuff, lads. He counted 10 minutes. So Doherty was down for a minute 32, Boyle down for a minute 14, Harrison down for a minute 12, Fionn McDonough down for a minute 43, Higgins down for a minute 40 for 43 seconds just, Kevin McLaughlin down for a minute 24. Then there was second half subs. 2 of them were double subs, so it was 5 stoppages of 30 seconds. So that's 2.5 minutes. And the other ended up to the other 7 minutes. That's 10 minutes.
Yes.
And Maurice Deegan's given 4. That's a huge mistake, lads. Yeah. It's a huge mistake.
But does that time come from the fourth official, and then Maurice Deegan decides, so if there's a minimum of, say, 6 minutes, does Maurice Deegan then decide? You never see a referee going over, and saying 5 minutes.
I know, they're mic'd up. Deegan will tell them what's left.
The referee usually indicates.
I often wondered, the fourth official says, look at, we've 6 subs, that's 30 seconds, that's 3 minutes. And next thing they're talking.
Well, I'd say Deegan gives them the. I'm not sure how they work that, but I'd say the fourth official can count the subs, so Deegan might give him what's added. But then Deegan's only adding a minute and a half.
It's
which
crazy.
Is less than the Fionn McDonough stoppage on its own.
A minute and a half for all the stuff. If you take out the subs, he saw a minute and a half of stoppage for 35 minutes of play. That is scary. Actually, it's no good for Armagh, but referees should now be held accountable, and just they should be marking down. Like, are they not keeping time anyway? So they should be showing us afterwards where they got that time from.
Why are they doing it? Like, there's a solution here of the clock, and it works in the women's game brilliantly. And no one, it's taken out of the referee's hand, and all this nonsense of referee, we'll give him a chance to draw it. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That's so old school.
But it is
that
going to happen.
Still happen.
But it is going to happen eventually, because that's normally the way the GAA work. They'll drag their heels for a while, and all of a sudden, then maybe 5 or 6 years later, than it should have happened. Someone will come out and it'll go through Congress, and
But
maybe
this has gone through Congress. This is the weird thing, because Sean McGoldrick was tweeting about this, and I remember it being, I think this was passed. He says Croke Park hierarchy must take full responsibility for this, and other timing controversies have twice blocked the introduction of a time clock, though it was passed by Congress. So if that's passed by Congress, like, I'm confused here. Can Central Council say no, we don't want that? Or why would they not want it? Or do they not want, what if a referee has a chance to draw it up? Do they want the referee to draw it up? Do you know what I mean?
Well, with 20,000 in
they
have
to finish that.
Yeah,
and you see that's confusing as well, because that's unfair on my part, because most games are being played to an end now outside of provincial finals and All-Ireland finals.
Like, sometimes I always think that they're afraid to make those changes if they can't be applied to the club game, and I would have agreed a lot, but now, like, you can't have hockey at a club game, or so maybe this is just the perks that you have at the top level.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things happen at the top level that doesn't happen at club level. You know, you have no fourth official. So you've two local lads doing umpires and stuff like that. So I wouldn't. But like, these are mistakes. We'll say these are so easy to correct, and that's the big thing. Like, it's not feasible to have Hawkeye at the moment at every grounds. I can understand that. You know, and you can lose a game, for having Hawkeye. But like, these are things that can be really simply sorted out, and that's the big difficulty I have for it. Yeah. You know, and you can understand. You know, I know you mentioned Geezer giving out. I thought I would expect him to say a lot more. He was very holding back a lot. But you know, if that was Kildare, I'd be very, very disappointed. You know, and the momentum which chasing, pushing hard to get it.
They would have won it. I think they would have got a draw if there was another couple of minutes. They were just on top. They'd outscored Mayo 6-2 in the last kind of 10 minutes after Mayo had gone ahead. So they were well on top. Geezer says, when you're infallible, you never learn from your mistakes. This is about Maurice Deegan. That's probably the best way I can put it. We had 4 minutes of extra time there with maybe 10 or 11 head injuries. Now, he could get his he might have exaggerated that a little bit. He said that's nothing to do with Mayo or James Horan. That's not his call. That's the man in the middle. So yeah, so like, he definitely he has a good point about that. And like, I mean, this is to wrap it up, it's just a huge mistake by Maurice Deegan that he should have to explain. Conan, you're right. How can he have a minute and a half when it's clearly down in black and white? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stoppages for injuries, and they're all on the Mayo side, by the way. So, like, I mean, you can read into that what you want. Like, I mean, Armagh coming back at them, they're not stupid. I don't know how many of them were in that point.
Slow down the play, maybe.
Slow down. That's the old contact lenses trick we're talking about.
Cynical play is not something we associate with Mayo, is it?
You know, a lot of people are coming out. Eamon Fitzmaurice is talking about them being one of the most cynical teams. Most people that play against Mayo will tell you that they're incredibly cynical.
Yeah, listen. If you're in that position yourself, you're trying to have a couple of points up, and the game, maybe flow of the game going against you. You do what you have to do. I think every team is cynical when they have to be. And most of the top teams will find a way to win. That's just the way they are. Like, Eamon Fitzmaurice talking about tough. Kerry are probably the hardest, toughest. Whether we use the word cynical, I'd use it at certain times with them. But that's what winners do.
Yeah, they're all like that. They're all like that. A couple of things we spoke about last week. So Jarlath O'Byrne won the throw in on Aidan O'Shea, which was a huge moment in the game. If you listen to this show, it was a huge moment in the game because we'd built it up. Amazingly, Jarlath O'G didn't go in for the second one. He actually stood off and let Grimley jump with Aidan O'Shea for the second throw in. That was a weird one because he landed on his back in the first one. Another thing we talked about is Rian O'Neill. His palmed goal was a throw. Technically, that is actually catching it and slam dunking it into the net. Like, I mean, that's a throw. And another thing we talked about was Jarlath O'Byrne and Jason Doherty both getting yellow cards when Jarlath O'Byrne did nothing. He was just running back out from the goals. Jason Doherty ran into him. They went down to the ground, started wrestling with him. 2 yellows. Referee took the easy option out again. So which is a complete weird one. But just interesting on the referee before I go back or move on is outside of the extra time, I didn't think he was playing with either team necessarily. I thought he was giving some weird soft freeze for both teams. Did you think, was there any argument that he was playing? Kevin McLaughlin took about 10 steps for his goal.
Yeah, that was it.
He took about 8 up, and we always talked about this on the show. When you go past a player or ride a tackle, the referee seems to lose track of your steps. So McLaughlin took about 7 going up towards Brendan Donaghy, then went around him, and in the act of going around him, put his hand up. You know the big slow effort at a bounce? Now by the time he's bounced it, he's up to 10, 12 steps.
Alan Brogan was really good at that.
Brogan started
He
it.
invented it.
Yeah, he did. And do you know what? Even just playing Masters, I do it all the time. It's brilliant. But it works so well. It's this big pronounced bounce.
Daniel Flynn did it as well.
Daniel
Flynn, he's very good at it too.
It's hard to count his steps. His legs are moving so fast.
But it's true. I didn't think he was overly favouring either team, though, is the point I was trying to make. The Lee Keegan injury was a funny one because he went over clearly. Well, it wasn't clearly that he went over his ankle, but he got a very bad injury where he was almost crying leaving the field. But if you showed a replay where the injury occurred, right in the middle of the field, now there was nothing untoward with Rian O'Neill. He'd gone on him at that stage. But he made a run and that happened, and then Rian O'Neill made a run back the other way, and Keegan was injured and still sprinted back after him with that injury, and then it was a free and the play was pulled up, and then Keegan just can't move. But I just thought it was what a warrior this fella is, that he badly rolled his ankle but didn't go down immediately. He waited until the play could stop to allow him go down, and a bit like James McCarthy the week before, got a bad injury but was still playing on, until he had to.
On adrenaline, I'd say, and I suppose that's the type of, I suppose, that, as you said, the warrior that Lee Keegan is. It was, don't worry, I'll worry about myself in a minute. What's the best for the team here now? And you need those characters, you need those type of players in your team, and time and time again we shown what a warrior he is.
Yeah, they're screwed though, aren't they, Mayo, with all the injuries? They are. Like, I mean, they're dead men walking, I reckon.
I was sort of thinking they were a bit screwed in that game because they had just taken Andy Moore off and then they took him off by choice.
Wasn't doing that bad. For a full forward, he had 8 possessions in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not bad. He'd set up the Fionn McDonagh goal, which was, maybe if that happened in rugby, they'd be salivating about the hands.
Yeah.
That was rocketed at him, and he was running at full pace, and he gathered that on the full. Incredible by Fionn McDonagh. Like, usually you would fall over, the momentum of actually carrying that. But I thought Moran was doing fine.
Yeah, and the thing about Andy Moran, there's certain types of players in games that can, you think he's maybe not going that well, and all of a sudden then in a couple of minutes of magic he's a goal set up, or he's a couple of points kicked out and nothing, and you're thinking, Jenny, there's some players that are maybe not going well, it's not their day,
they'll do it,
but he's the type of player that just out of nothing he can create an opportunity, create a chance, he'll get a score off, at a crazy angle. So I thought it was a strange move taken.
Yeah. Now, having said that, Kevin McLaughlin scored 1-1 and he came on for him. I mean, but it's still, I do agree with you. I thought
would it be any worse having the two of them on the field?
Well, that's it. Yeah. Well, Darren Cohen coming off would have been a worse one.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
It's a great decision, actually.
John Heslin's black card, lads. This is terrible, really. And Brian Kennedy got a similar one against Kildare. What is wrong with letting the lad know you're around? Yeah. Is that gone? Because I think there's a cynical body check, and there's I'm going to give Brendan a dump now and just let him know I'm in and around here, because he, that's going on so long. Like, it's getting too sanitised. If Heslin's a black card and Brendan had hand passed it off, he wasn't even looking to catch up with the player or go on. No. Heslin just gave him a little bit of welcome to Cusick Park. You can't be sent off for that.
No, it's crazy. And like, for Westmeath to lose John Heslin as well, like, it's crazy. To me, that is absolutely, it goes against everything the black card was bought, what I believe was bought into in for. A bit of jostling around, like, you turn on the telly and a lad can take the head of a lad with a hurl and there's not a word about it. Like, come on. I know they're two different games, but to see John Heslin, exactly,
killed Burns.
But you see John Heslin going off, and like, it's nearly like someone's let the air out of Westmeath. And I know they came back and they battled hard, but like, he's their talisman. They need him on the field.
It's wrong. It's wrong. It's showing a lack of understanding, really, I think, of the game.
Well, if every referee in every game applied all these rules like that, then we could have less of a complaint about it. But they don't. No, that's the problem, and it's not why the black card was brought in. So it always just comes back to the rules, and it's like, is it there to stop cynical play or to stop people, bringing people down when you go for a goal? Or
he didn't even bring him down. You can say,
he just gave him a
That's
dunt.
what I mean. They need to revisit it. Like, it's there for cynical fouls.
Yeah.
And to try and clarify that somehow.
Yeah. We saw an example of the dreaded short kick out as well, lads, for the Clare goal. Like, I mean, if in doubt, drive it out would be my motto. But having said that, Gary Brennan and O'Connor are in midfield, And they're obviously the Westmeath tactics had to be to keep it away from them. So I can have forgive them a little bit, but look, when a short kick out goes wrong, lads,
and it goes horribly wrong. It normally ends up in the back of the net, or at least a score, or even sometimes a penalty. But for me, for a goalkeeper, he has to, if he's going short, he has to be 110% sure, and he has to put it wide left or right. Putting it in the middle is just, it just, when it goes wrong, it's a game changer. And like for a keeper, for me, it'd be pulling Gary Brennan right to the sideline and putting it to far side. And take it from there and look to take breaks, because as you rightly say, Clare around the middle of the field are very strong.
They're very strong, yeah. But that's it. Just get Brennan one side. These short kickouts, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But Westmeath lost Heslin, they lost Ronan O'Toole to two blacks, and Jerry Egan got injured. So they did well to get within one. I know the last one was a kind of a consolation kind of point, long range point. Although they did get one more kick out, which you would have thought watching the highlights, that's the last one. And who gets it out of the sky? Only Gary Brennan. Like, talk about standing up when it's needed. Like that was.
Well, that's not his first time to do that for Clare, in fairness to him.
No, Jack Cooney was on after the match, right, lads? And all managers seem to be doing this. It's a Premier League phenomenon. It's the Harry Redknapp kind of put a spin on your year. So Jack Cooney says, all in all, it's been a very positive year. And I'm wondering, what has it though? Like, they lost their first match in Leinster. It hasn't been a positive championship anyway. They won Division 2, got promoted. Grand, so that's fair enough. And they won the O'Byrne Cup. So maybe if you're taking the year they only beat Limerick and Waterford. And they weren't overly impressive against Limerick, 2 Division 4 teams at home, and then lost to Clare, lost to Laois. I'd say they'd be very disappointed with how the championship has gone.
Yeah, and sometimes, these interviews after matches, it's nearly just throw out something to keep, the last thing from a playing point of view you would have had is, particularly with the local lads, because you'd meet them up the town and you'd give them a few words, but you'd be really that sick you wouldn't want to talk to anyone. And for me, I'd say Jack Cooney, in fairness to him, he had to give them something. But when he sits down and looks at it and say, right, at the start of the year, what's achievable for us, and let's look at the end of the year, I would say that he won't be overly happy with the year.
Yeah,
I don't think as you say,
I don't know why managers can't just be a little bit self-deprecating and say, geez, we're very disappointed, we expected more out of ourselves, but the league went well, and that's something to build on. I don't like this kind of don't take me for a fool and say it's been a really good year. John Mahon did something similar in his interview after the Laois game, that's been a very good year. You could argue, considering the base they were coming from, that he might have an argument. They did very well against Meath, they should have beaten Meath. And then beat Sligo, and then didn't perform fairly well against Laois. So I don't know.
Well, it's probably I would think it's probably been a better year for John Mahon than it has for Jack Cooney.
Yeah. Coming from where they're coming from.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and they were very unlucky against Meath. I thought the Niall McNamee had that goal chance, and if that went in, it was game over.
Derry got the same as well. We're making great progress.
That was it.
Year.
That's what reminded me of it as well. He was at the same. We talked about this last week.
They beat Wexford this year, and they got out of Division 4, but we were taking the Division 4 by that manager, so that was the sort of bare minimum. We get out of Division 4. So
we've had a great year. It's the Premier League phenomenon. It's not wanting to criticize. Maybe it's this endless positivity we have to deal with.
But but nobody's like, we're all watching it. We all see the results and stuff. So you would be better off being a bit more honest. Yeah,
no, I completely agree. So championship fever hit O'Moore Park, lads. I couldn't get over to this because obviously I had to watch the higher profile game in Armagh and Mayo. And
someone texted me actually and said, why didn't Woolley just record the Armagh Mayo game?
Yeah, but then by the time I get home, then I'm watching that. Then I'm waking up watching matches again on Sunday. And when I know the result in a match, I find it very hard to watch it.
Throw in the Masters into it as well. Yeah, busy man. There's only so much you can take.
There's only so many matches that you can watch. And anyways, after those two games on Saturday night, I had to kind of prep these shows anyway. So I was like, no, listen.
You were confident it was another day out for
Laois. I had to work on time management. But it was an unbelievable crowd here, lads. It was savage. Ross Munnelly started for Laois. There was a huge Offaly crowd at it, huge Laois crowd Saturday evening, 2 evenly enough match teams, and a really good traditional game by all accounts. Munnelly started, which I thought was an interesting one. He's 36, right? And the interesting thing about this is not that he's 36, is that he only got a couple of minutes against Meath. He didn't feature at all against Westmeath or Derry. So, I love this kind of thing. Number one, he must have been going well in training, which is a great thing, and you're basing it off training. Another thing is is maybe that we know Offaly play a traditional brand of football. They don't get bodies behind the ball. Ross is 36 now. Maybe he's not able for all those zonal defenders, so I like a rabbit being thrown out of a hat based on what are we facing, what team suits this team. Munnelly love a bit of space now. He'll be, he'll really thrive in that. And I thought that was really good management from John Sucru.
Yeah, and in fairness with Ross, you know exactly what you're going to get every time he goes out. He'll give you, a huge honest effort. And again, you're looking back and say, well, look, maybe history will show that Ross does well against Offaly as well. And I for me, and you'll be a lot closer to the camera, you'll be watching a lot more of what's going on. To me, it was a smart move to put Ross back in there. He'll chip in with his couple of points, but he also he brings other players into it, and I'm sure for young lads coming in and that, he's a very positive influence within the team. So I thought it was definitely a good move to have him in there. For 60 minutes, Laois had 8 different scorers and scored 19 points in 60 minutes, and it's 6 wides then in the last 10 minutes. So they're probably convincing enough winners. The Offaly had a strong wind in the first half, and when they didn't have a lead at half time, you're kind of in trouble at that stage. There was another good quote. Their 2 midfielders, Owen Carroll and Peter Cunningham, were taken off as well, and they had been their kind of strong area against Meath that day. But I thought it was an interesting quote from John Sucru. He said, we were in rehab last week, or that was in the week after the Meath game. So he said they didn't get going at all against Derry in the first half, and they only started playing football again. So listen, Laois have Cork now, so it'd be interesting to know. There's a part of me thinking, Jesus, I don't think Laois are ready for Super 8s. Imagine, Jesus, it's Dublin's group as well. It'd be like, holy shit.
Dublin, Tyrone.
And they always say, like, with teams like Laois, it'd be great for their development. And I'm wondering, Dublin, Tyrone, how is that going to, maybe obviously playing at a higher level will expose you to what level you need to get to. I suppose that's the argument, isn't it?
And they're better playing in the Super 8s than sitting at home.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And I'm not sure about
Ross Commons' experience last year.
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Go on.
I'm not sure about this whole development, because every year is so different. Like, you play for now and you play for the year, and you can say, next year we'll blood a few young lads, but eventually the next year is going to have to stop, and you're going to have to. All this development has to lead to somewhere.
Yeah,
I definitely think
there's an example of that.
Absolutely.
Right?
Like we talk about, we're bringing in the 20s now, and but eventually we have to. These guys have to mature. And listen, I'd be a big advocate of drawing them in. It's sink or swim. You learn a lot more there, playing at the highest level, and you could face a bit of a Dublin against a Tyrone or a Dublin, but sure, if you meet them in the first round of Leinster, you're going to face the same thing. So you play for the now and play at the highest level you can. Yeah, it'd be a great. The home game, I suppose, would be the big one in that. You get a good crowd. Depends who you would draw in that. So Cian O'Neill got sent off. Johnny, you were at this one in Newbridge. You were picked up on the Sky cameras there as well, so you were. I don't know what you were doing up there in the press box. Lucky you weren't picking your nose. Face for radio. I was just after stopping.
So he got sent off, and he got sent off. I thought he had a point. It was a dispute of 45. So Donlan caught the ball, right? Now his hands didn't move back, or his whole body didn't move back. So either he caught it behind the line, which I think he did, or he would have caught it in front of the line. Neither scenario would be that it was a 45. So Cian O'Neill, I think, rightly got annoyed and ended up getting sent off, refused to go into the stand and just stood at the gate.
It was bizarre. I suppose, look at, managers are different. Some managers won't make any gestures at all, and like Cian is lively on the line, and he was very quick to go down. I watched him. He sprinted down to get it, and he was given the umpire both barrels, and then. Listen, I thought it was going to be a bit farcical there. The ref wasn't going to start the match. It was a little bit silly, to be honest with you. He didn't go off. He stood in, and I think they opened the gate 3 or 4 times. You could hear it squeaking from up in the press box. But he was adamant he wasn't going to go. But
see, in Newbridge, where would you even go? Is there even Newbridge is as bloody old as the hills.
Yeah. Well, there was no seat in the stand. He wasn't going to put some 80-year-old woman overseas.
They're at a premium seats in there.
They are.
So he just stayed. That'd
be the ultimate. the camera followed him up to stand, nowhere to sit down,
like Arsene Wenger in Old Trafford. That was a classic one. He had no seat. So what's he going to do now, Johnny? You think that'll be the end of him? Like he said, they died with their boots on. I don't know if they did, to be honest with you. So it was a weird one. They battled well in the first half, but actually, do you know what? We'll keep that analysis for part 2. But do you think Cian O'Neill will stay or go?
It's a hard one to know. He's been there 4 years. Has he brought this group as far as they can? People around the county probably would say yes. It's time for a change. And in fairness to him, he's living in Cork. He's working in Cork. It's a long track up every 3 or 4 times a week. I'm sure when he sits down and has a chat at home and discusses, like, does he have the graw to keep? Because that's a big commitment to go, time and time again. So it's a difficult one to know. I think he probably has brought this group. I think maybe a bit of freshness might be no harm. But listen, he's done a lot of good work there, and
he won't be short of offers, I'm sure, either. Maybe not as a manager, but as being involved in teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And his record has been good. He's been in a strength and conditioning role. He's been with Kerry, he's been with Mayo, he's been with Tipperary. He's been down in Limerick. So he's a lot of experience. But it's a different experience in the hot seat as manager. Like you can be heavily involved as a selector, but the pressure in management and the pressure in managing your own county is massive. You know, and in an age of keyboard warriors and all this sort of thing, it's not the nicest place to be. And let's be honest about it. 90% of managers, it's going to end wrong for you. Someone's going to say, oh, thanks for that now, good luck, because unless you win a provincial title or a league or an All-Ireland, you failed. Yeah. That's the harsh reality of it.
Yeah, and he got them to Super 8 last year. I think he's been very unlucky this year with injuries and Daniel Flynn not committing, Paul Cribben. They're two huge players, those two. And he couldn't build on last year, which is disappointing. He didn't have his full team to be able to build on. And now you could say every team has injuries and you have to roll with the punches and everything.
Yeah, and lost Ben McCormick early in the game, Kevin Flynn from Selbridge came in last year, had a brilliant year.
He's been out all year. Him, Cribben and Daniel Flynn, they're three big losses.
They are. There's no doubt about it. And while people around the county saying, the 20-year-old is to bring in straight away. All right, you'll introduce one or two of them, but they're probably just not ready just yet either. So there's lots of different things and to take into consideration there, But he has been unlucky with injuries, he certainly has.
Yeah, no, he definitely has. So you were at the game, so you didn't hear Dick Clarke on the co-com, which was as boring as come. Did you hear him, Conan?
I did, yeah.
You did.
I quickly turned it down as well, like you did as well.
I had to turn it down, then curiosity got the better of me, so I turned it back up.
Guilty pleasure.
But his ability to say something so obvious and make it sound like he's just telling people like the most interesting thing in the world. I don't know how he managed to do it, but the best one was Darren McCurry. Towards the end, he was talking about seeing him in Croke Park, and he obviously had this planned, and that he saw him in Croke Park and at the All-Ireland final, and McCurry hadn't committed, and he said that, God, I was wondering what he might have been thinking, but he's come back this year and he's put in some serious performances. Like, McCurry's been a sub all year. He said he only started against Longford, he didn't score, and he played fairly well that day, so I don't know what these serious performances were. But listen, I thought I'd another good one. Another good one was look at the pace of this Tyrone break. Clarke says, as McCurry was running forward, turned around and passed it backwards. All right, we'll go on to analysis and leave him alone. Okay, so we'll start with Kildare and Tyrone. So this was a bit of a hammering for Kildare. In fairness, they had O'Grady sent off in the second half and the floodgates opened a little bit. But in fairness, to be honest, they were getting well beaten even in the first half. I don't know how they had it back to 2 points after the Feely goal and a Tyrrell point. Yeah, so Cian O'Neill says the guys, they'll be devastated with defeat. They died with their boots on and they never stopped trying to play. I don't think they ever stopped trying to play, Johnny. But geez, they didn't have the intensity in the tackle that you need at that level, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that, and it's probably something that they haven't had all year. That aggressive tackling, and even just looking at the physique of both sets of players, just Tyrone seemed to be so much physically stronger, moving a much more pace. And aggressive in the tackle. We could have got lots of men back, but didn't really put any pressure on the kicker, and then
Matty Donnelly just waltzing through, lads. Now I know he's a big strong fella.
He is a big strong fella.
But sometimes he's not even running a full pace, and he's just moving past somebody.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was doing a little bit on local radio, and we were looking down like, I was struggling to see who's picking up Matty Donnelly. Like before the game, you'd be saying, okay, Matty Donnelly and Peter Hart. If we can try stop it, it's not saying we're going to win it, but if we can minimise them, and you look at Donegal, they snuffed out. I'm not sure who picked him up, but they snuffed out Peter Hart. He struggled big time in that game, and yet he did what he wanted. And I was looking around. It looked like David Hyland had him one side. And at one stage I looked up and Owen Flaherty was marking. I'm thinking, who's like, all right, the game is evolving, but there is man actually. I don't want to see him. That's all you do. Yeah. You may make sure you keep him to a minimum, and that's where Kildare really struggled, I thought.
Yeah, no, it did. It definitely did. Like, I mean, it was a weird one. After 43 seconds, you could tell exactly how Tyrone are going to. I just have it written down here. Everyone except for McShane was inside the 45. Now Kildare have seen that before. But going by the commentary, because we weren't at it, you would have been at it, Johnny, is Kildare left 3 men inside, Tyrone left 1. Now, I don't see the logic of that, because you're never going to get it down to those 3 anyways. So all you're really doing in effect is losing 2 extra defenders, which Tyrone have. So Tyrone are dictating this game to you, whereas they've more bodies in defence and they're breaking. You've less bodies in defence, and what you have in attack, you can't get it to them before Tyrone get back. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, tactically, if Tyrone are leaving 1 up, you really have to just leave one up.
Yeah, and I thought, like, even that there's 3 that, you know, if you're going to try play that, and then look, we can all argue with different tactics and stuff like that. You have to play that in a triangle. You have to have someone on the 40, like, and because Kildare struggle when they try to play that. If they've no option to kick, we tend to go lateral. And we end up in trouble and letting Tyrone filter back. Even when a couple of times we did, Kildare did turn them over, and it was only a couple of times, but we'd no option then. So we ended up going, and it just Tyrone filtered back and swarmed us out time and time again. You know, you have
but
to.
I don't. Would the link man on the 40 work with an extreme defensive system like Tyrone? I'm not sure there's any kicking game can work against that. I think they maybe on a transition. I don't know, but they'll have lads back minding the house for that as well.
I agree, but whatever chance you have, if you have an option there, you have a chance of using it if it does evolve that way. Yeah. With 3 lads sitting in the full forward line, that's gone.
It's a strange one leaving them all in there. Yeah.
Now there was times they did come up, but I just felt that Kildare didn't. There was an air of inevitability. As you say, I would have put it after 5 minutes. You'll give it 43 seconds. But there was an air, even when Kildare did come back, and fairness to work the Kevin Feely goal very well. But for me, it was just a case of Tyrone are just going to go on and win this game. They seem to be able to do everything at an ease. They didn't even look like they got into top gear, and we didn't put a glove on them.
Yeah, because when Tyrone played like that and Kildare played like that, though, it turns it into like conditioning matters more than ever. And that's what happened with Roscommon last year, and that's probably a problem in Gaelic football at the minute in club and county, is that teams can still be so far ahead because their conditioning is far better. And Tyrone's is obviously at the top level, and I think it's that difference shows when you're not up to that level.
Well, the condition, I'd agree to a point, but the conditioning was to me, looking at it, was massively different. But also the approach play was massively different as well. Like they just, they kept it really wide. You know, when the opportunity came, sometimes they played it back. Like their half back got the goal. You know, the cornerback, 2 cornerbacks scored.
Cassidy.
You know, Cassidy just ghosted in. Nobody
and Burns
picked him
got
up.
2 points too.
You know, that ball across the square, we got caught twice for that. 2 goals.
That was O'Donoghue who didn't track Sludden. That was terrible defending by him. The man that made that goal was Sludden coming off the shoulder off McShane, right? And O'Donoghue was just trailing behind him, and then it was just thrown across and it was a goal. But that was O'Donoghue's fault. Like, I mean, Sludden was the man that needed to be picked up there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing for me is taking responsibility and the basics of the game. Okay, there's defensive units and there's systems, and you have to use your head. Would say, well, my man's not dangerous here. I've got to get across here, but then there comes a point in a defender. Where's my man? Who am I picking up here? And for me, too many times that Kildare, yes, the loads of lads back, but not doing it, not taking responsibility, and that was a case in point where, if I'm picking up Sludden, I've got to get to him and I've got to get in his face. Like if it's the far end, Adam Tyrrell wasn't getting that space. There was someone in his face the whole time, pushing at him, pushing him back, getting a hand on him. And that's what Tyrone are really good at, and that's where Kildare really struggled.
Yeah, I think that when you talk about the physicality, because I actually thought Kildare did have the physicality, but like that's based on last year's team where Tommy Mullick's in midfield, Fergal Conway's in the half forward line, Paul Cribben's in the half forward line, Paddy Brophy's playing well, Daniel Flynn's playing well. They're 3 6'3" level players. You know that
even
you're
Tommy
taking
Mullick,
out.
I thought Tommy Mullick should have started.
Yeah.
I thought it was a game for him. He'd been doing well. Alright, he struggled a little bit like the other 15 against Dublin. But he's a big unit. He's probably 6'4", and he's a big lad, and he's in reasonable shape, and he'll always kick in for a long range score. He came on and got a score. So I thought I thought it was a game that would have suited him because it was going to be very physical. Yeah,
especially because Big Kennedy there in midfield, he'd be able to fetch with him or jump with him. He got the black card. We'd mentioned that, and he can't get a good run of injury with it between injury and that black card, because Tyrone were pressing aggressively on the Kildare kickouts, which is not really that common for them, especially when they play that defensively. They wouldn't be putting a huge press, but they were putting a huge press. Now, they didn't do brilliantly on the Kildare kickouts. This was the first half kickouts. They only won 4 of Kildare's 16 kickouts. This was the stat on Sky, but off those 4 they scored 1-2. Do you know what I mean? It just shows the reward you get when you're pressing and you win that press. It's incredible, because obviously we know both teams reset. We call them set. They're almost kickouts are set plays now. That it's like American football. You know where both teams are going to be. They both reset, and that's it. So if you win that,
and Tyrone gave Kevin Feely a tough time on the kickouts. There was 2 lads jumping the hole, because Kevin Feely's a big part of the Kildare kickout plan. He's feeling. Even he caught 2 massive balls there on Saturday evening.
Kavanagh caught a couple of good ones too. They were marking each other, I think.
Yeah, they were.
I think it was funny actually. Feely scored an inspirational point in the second half, and he must have been admiring it, because Morgan got the kick out off, and Kavanagh caught, and Feely was nowhere near him. But I think what Kavanagh did was this was at the other side of the field. Kavanagh caught the kick out, whereas Feely scored the brilliant point under the stand. Yeah. So I thought that was clever. But Morgan's kickouts were outstanding. Now I think it's a combination of Kildare putting no press on it. It was terrible stuff from Kildare, the kickouts, because there was 2 Neil Flynn frees in the first half, and you're looking at it going, geez, Morgan's getting every kick out. I think Tyrone had 100% success rate with their kickouts or something crazy like that. And then the Neil Flynn free, so there's no excuse for not pressing that, and he's just tapping it away to a free man, Morgan. That's not good enough from Kildare's point of view. Maybe the plan was not to press with everybody. They wanted to keep Doyle back.
I'm not sure, but Tyrone's kickouts on a couple of occasions where the half forward and Tyrone half forward and pushed up and he put it in nearly over the midfield, and they got a couple of scores off that. And Armagh did that. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago with Kildare as well. Brought everyone up and just drove it into the half forward line and were very creative on it as well. So I thought their kickouts were really, really good.
Maybe Kildare were watching that. Maybe, I don't know, but it definitely didn't seem to have Morgan. Although Morgan is very good at getting those away.
Yeah, he probably deserves
very
credit.
Fast.
But if Kildare are playing with 3 full forwards, then it is surprising that they couldn't try and scupper at least one of them. And the reward's worth the risk as well. Like if you're saying Tyrone only won a few of them there and got 1-2 off it, like that is worth losing all the other ones that they lost.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. We'll just talk quickly about Feely's goal. It was excellent. It was a lovely. Conway. We'll talk about Conway and Feely in performance of the weekend, because they kept Kildare. What God, it could have been terrible without those 2. But Conway played a lovely diagonal ball across, and it ended up with Cribben, who passed it across to Feely and stuck it away. So Feely ended up with 1-2. A very good performance from him.
Yeah, and rightly so. Fergal Conway beside him, and it was bizarre. I don't know whether you picked it up on telly, but it looked like Fergal Conway was after overplaying it, and it looked like for a split second
he might have fouled the ball.
Yeah, Tyrone stopped.
Yeah,
and we were all sort of saying, just for that split second, and all of a sudden, then he picked out Keith Cribben, who thought it very well to put it across to Feely, and he finished it, and that sort of kept. We were struggling big time at that stage.
Big time. Tyrrell got a free, so then it went from being 6 behind to 4 behind in a space like that. Yeah. When Clare didn't deserve that, they didn't really.
We take it anyway.
But they didn't, though. I thought Tyrone were by far the better team the whole way through the whole way through the game. But I still think Kildare would be a match for Tyrone with their full team. But you can't keep saying, I suppose, with full teams, because every county is missing lads, and that's just it. You have to play with what you have.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. Mayo Armagh, right? So this was, like we said, this was an outstanding game. We knew it was never not going to be an outstanding game because of the 2 teams. Armagh made a brilliant start. So Grugan was on fire. We predicted him last Thursday that this game would really suit him, and as it turns out, it really did suit him. Murnan actually was injured. Whether Grugan would have been brought in if Murnan hadn't been injured, we don't know. But he started Conan the game incredibly well. Like, just doing what we know he can do and being that playmaker and seeing that pass, and that's how the goal came about.
Yeah, he's such the perfect like half forward almost, because he works so hard as well. Like, you know, when he pops.
He worked
up
very hard the other night. Yeah.
Yeah, and like he popped up defence a few times. He went through the middle with the ball, but when he is around that sort of 50-60 metres out, he's just got such a nice balanced like sort of look to him, and he can go off either foot, and every little ball he dinks in is just bouncing in front of someone, and it's almost enticing the cornerback, which is what happened for the first goal, to try and come in and nip it, because it's just sort of threading in front of the full forward.
Yeah, well, Fionn McDonough was a bit naive in his defending there on Nugent. And in that point, you have to stay goal side, right? You can't, like, there's one thing a defender in the half forward line going crazy out to get it, but like, I mean, if you were on the edge of the square, you couldn't believe your luck, Johnny, if the lad's trying to, because then this is basically, if I get it before him, he's gone.
Yeah, you can't overcommit.
No,
you know, because as you rightly say, you're leaving the house down behind you. You've got to make sure if you're going that you knock that ball, that the forward doesn't get it. And it was costly, like, you know, it cost him dearly. But I thought Grugan was immense yesterday or Saturday. I thought he just mixes everything, you know. He's the stylish finisher of the forward, but he's that unbelievable. And I thought him and Jamar Hall worked really, really hard.
Jamar Hall was excellent. Yeah,
they worked that half forward line. You know, you could see that they're in there, and I know Kieran likes his two half forwards really, really working hard. And for me, they were like two pieces of an engine. They were going the whole time. You know, linking attack or defence and attack.
They definitely were. Yeah, Rian O'Neill started the game so brilliantly. Lee Keegan had to go over on him, so we didn't see enough of that battle. But like, Rian just completely went out of it. I think he's told, go where you like. There doesn't seem to be any structure, because he's in, he's out, and it's not unlike a manager to be going out, in. I think he's drifting around himself, and what he's actually doing, like, often just staying where you are for a minute and just let the play come to you. And this is hard to do, because some of the games when I play my worst, I'm desperate to get on it, calling for everything, and I'm running, making runs. And then, who was I listening to one time? Can't remember who it was, and they were saying, just stay where you are for a little while. Stop doing that, and just see how the play develops without you having to be in it. And suddenly you might get a hand in your ball.
He might be given that freedom. I remember one time, you know, after a league game, McGeaney called me in after I had a disaster of a league game, and I said, I was playing inside. Sure, I wasn't coming in. And he looked at me in that cold stare as he normally has, and he said, well, go and get the fucking thing. Do you know? Right. If it's not coming, you go and get it. And maybe there is that bit of a freedom that...
Then you're in midfield.
Yeah. But maybe he does, you know, rotates them and gives them that freedom of expression. But
there needs to be a bit of structure there too, you know, because I thought Rian played his way out of the game rather than the other way around. Maybe I'm being a bit harder.
He sort of reminds me a bit of Mark Lynch, where Derry always said they need him at full forward and midfield and at half forward. Do you know, where do you pick him then, though? Like, where do you tell him to stay for 20 minutes?
The way Armagh had started the game, stay inside.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, that was very obvious. There's no need to be coming out here at all. Like, I mean, they were winning the midfield battle. Then I suppose Mayo started going short with all their kickouts. Yeah. The message went into Clarke, we ain't winning these. Armagh were doing really well, and sure, when they were doing well on kickouts, well, then Grugan was in his position to influence the game. It was only in the second half where Grugan went out of it when Mayo took all their kick-out short, so they couldn't get that platform with their half-forward line in an advanced position. You know what I mean? In an advanced position.
The other side of that, I suppose, is if you're playing, you want Jamie Clarke in towards the goal, in around the square as well. So, you know, with the ebb and flow of the game, you particularly the modern game, you tend to get sucked out, and you want someone in there. Maybe O'Neill got caught in that situation where he was in and he was out, and he was trying so hard to get on the ball. Like, you know, that's the modern game now. You have to be able to have an, even in the full forward line, you're not going to be just a glorified corner forward now. If there's someone covering that, there's a target in there at some stage, you've got to get out and get on ball. And maybe he fell into that trap, sort of trying really hard but not making it work for him.
Not making it work. Armagh got lots of bodies back behind the ball, Conan, but like, I mean, it didn't look boring. Like, they were getting them back maybe with the ball. Like, they were still going for it, and they were pairing off one-on-one, but they were getting Donaghy was a full-time, well, sweeper as much as he could, depending on getting himself freed up. But it was still a very, very exciting game. Maybe it's Mayo. I don't know, Mayo's style of play, no matter who they play, it's going to be an exciting game. But Armagh definitely they had 14 turnovers to Mayo's 7 at half time, which was a reflection on kind of the way they had been playing. You know what I mean? They were playing by getting more bodies back than Mayo had been.
I'm really happy you thought it was exciting, because I was a bit worried that it was just me, because I was watching Armagh thinking their defence looked so much better than Mayo's, and I was like, is this just because I'm coming from up north and I want an extra man back? But Mayo looked a bit more haphazard. It's just like, one man for themselves, and that's grand, but it just looked a bit off it the other day. But I think it's just that your favourite word is the transition. Like, it's just that intent, not the boys on the ball, but the boys who are off the ball, to get back up again and have that bit of structure in the attack. And the amount of ball they're winning in midfield, I suppose, as well. It means it's not this slow game working out from the back, so they have more energy and they're starting higher up the pitch.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I thought Brendan Donaghy's defending for McLaughlin's goal, like, while McLaughlin definitely took too many steps, sweeper can't be beaten that easily. Like, he just rounded him like he wasn't there, like, and he's the last line of defence here,
Yeah, which it's not something you associate, because Donaghy's he's a strong boy. Like, I played on him a couple of times, and you're going to go around him, you're going to feel it, but he just seemed to skip around him. But again, McLaughlin he's one of those players that he looks to be gliding. He never looks like he's flat out. No. But he moves fast with the ball. Listen, a lot of referees might have given a free out there, but he took it and took his goal very well.
Did he miss hit the goal, McLaughlin? I thought he...
No, do you know what he did? And I know exactly what he did. He went on the outside of his right foot. Yeah. So his technique wouldn't be great. You should see me trying to go off the outside. I can go off the inside of my left, but I never practiced the outside of my left. Yeah. So when I go off the outside of the left, I look like... but you just look awkward, because I didn't practice the technique. Yeah. So he went off the outside of the right. So it might have looked like he miskicked it, but that's just his kick off the outside of his right. I'd imagine that was...
Yeah, because it did look very awkward, didn't it?
Yeah. It looked very awkward. Yeah. What about the two Armagh goal chances then? We talked about Grugan. We'll talk about Jamie Clarke first, right? So Jamie Clarke was outstanding. We'll just talk about this goal chance, because we'll talk about Jamie in performance of the weekend. But Jamie has to score that, right? Because he did it against Cavan as well now. Knowing how good he is, and this is the very, very top level now, trying to beat Mayo away. You won't get a better chance than that with your best inside forward on his stronger foot, facing the middle of the goal, facing the goal. Clarke isn't even in the middle of the goal. He's left all that side open, and he wasn't playing silly beggars with him. He was just out of position. Yeah. And because Jamie got such a bad contact on it, it hit the ground 2 or 3 times, Clarke was able to get across.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. He didn't, like... If that was the reverse and he was coming onto his right foot, you say, well, he didn't get a good strike on it, maybe, but he has to. I liked the way he was trying to put it to the corner without trying to rip the net out of it, but he has to give it a little bit more pace than that. It nearly fell off his foot early morning, and this is the challenge now for Armagh. I think they've made progress. They've putting a good team together, but to mix with the big boys, be playing at the big level, you have to take those chances. There's no, and it's been their Achilles heel throughout this championship. There's loads of occasions. They were in right control against Cavan. Early in they should have beat down. Should have won the first one. Pulling up.
Cavan the first day. They were 4 up.
But even in the down game, I think it went to extra time went to a replay because there were 4 or 5 points up. See out the game. And you look back at these chances, and that's the difference between the top teams and the next level. They'll take those chances when they get them. Like, you look at, for me, half chance. Okay, we can say McLaughlin's goal was carried, but again he took it. And that's why Mayo are competing, even though they've injuries, and you think maybe they're, as you pointed out earlier on, they're dead men walking, but they're still walking. And that's for me is the big difference.
They pulled it out of the fire. With Keegan going off, Andy Moran taking off, you can't even include Andy Moran because they decided to do that. Then it was Dermot O'Connor out, Ruan out for the year. They were really down to the bare bones. I suppose Killian O'Connor, Vaughan coming back, they were 2 big pluses for them.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about Jamie Clarke. Does he need to go the instep there, or can he not? He's got enough space, surely he can just hit it at the top of his laces with enough pace to go in.
Yeah, punt it in, but I suppose he's got so much control off the inside. It's what you're comfortable with, because it was the exact same technique he used against Cavan, but he drove that.
Yeah,
maybe
he
he
didn't
thought
get enough pace.
maybe I thought he'll placed it. Maybe because he drove the one against Cavan, he went, I'll take it off of here, and maybe just be low on confidence. It didn't look like the strike of a fella who is completely confident.
Yeah, well, he's not someone that you think suffers from a lack of confidence. In fairness,
because he's been playing brilliantly.
Yeah, and
brilliant,
he kicked 5 or 6 points, I think, did he?
Yeah, brilliant second half. But Grugan has to score his too.
Oh, yeah.
Now Grugan's is an open goal. If he puts it low, he's rolling that into an empty net, right?
Yeah.
Only now Clarke's getting across at speed, but again, that's another chance that really that has to be. You see those goals in soccer all the time. You don't see examples of that where you're just inside and you've an empty net to tap it into, do you? You don't see them in Gaelic football.
But he has to hit the target anyway.
Yeah.
He has to hit the target, like driving it over the crossbar from there. Again, he doesn't have to rip the net up, but he has to put it at a little bit of pace. And keep it low, and you think Johnny Clarke is beating all.
Is he on his weaker right, or is he both legs the same? His left is his strongest.
I think his left is strongest, but he does both lovely feet. Even the way he tapped it over, I know we didn't mean to tap it over, but it just floated over the bar. But it was a bit wider. Like I listened to it first on the radio, and then I heard it was an open net, and then when I watched it, he's a bit further out than I thought he might have been. He still should score, but the distance and
an open net shout. I'd probably be more critical of Clarke. Being face on the goal, huge side to aim at, that he should have scored that. But see, Armagh be kicking themselves here, lads. They had a whole load of chances to win this game, and then you have Shields giving away that silly foul of McLaughlin. 2 late fouls of McLaughlin. Silly stuff. Now the one that was from the free, that was very soft. That was wrestling in a little group. And quite often forwards initiate that, don't they, Johnny, to get away. McLaughlin fell down very easy, and the ref fell for it. I'd love to. I don't know that it showed on the Sunday game. I didn't watch the highlights on the Sunday game. I just saw it. They didn't show too many replays of it or close up. McLaughlin just seemed to fall over very easily there. Now, whether he bought that free or not, I don't know. But when you see a group of 3 and 4 defenders and forwards in a bunch, the forwards are usually doing that to try and do a block move and get the hell out of there. They're initiating that little bunch.
Well, and it brought the free from a tough position. I think they said on this Sunday game, 61 metres back in front of the goals, and did they show on the Sunday game it up close, or was it a free? Listen, I thought it was soft.
Very soft.
I thought it was soft. Especially in a really tight game, referees are a little bit attentive. I don't know. I would say a lot of referees wouldn't have given it. That would be my opinion of it anyway.
Yeah. What do you think, Conan? I suppose the one from play was a definite free, which was a bad one as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because the forwards do start that thing. It's nothing worse when you're playing cornerback and you're just trying to keep your eye on your man, and I know they're not always honest, but you're worried in that position where the ball can be kicked in, so you're keeping your eye on your man. And you don't want to pull either, because the ref can keep an eye on everything, and then a forward comes across and checks you or blocks you, or somebody else just comes and grabs your shirt, so then that's when you react. And
there's a lot of hands on there, but the managers tell you to have kind of hands on there, don't they? You have to keep your eye on them in some way, and there's blocks. It's definitely one that I don't know. I don't want to be too critical of Shields, because I thought that was a soft one. So, we've a whole load of things. We have to give Mayo some credit, lads, because we've talked a lot about Armagh. They pulled this game out of the fire. When the game was in the melting pot, they went 2-11 to 1-9 up. Then they were outscored by 6 points to 2. About similar against Down. They had that game won, and then all of a sudden they're shitting it at the end. That they're they can't see. They seem unable to put a game away and just have their supporters relax. But they do deserve credit, because that game could have easily run away from them, considering everything they were up against.
Absolutely, and with the all right, they took Andy Moran off, but he's a go-to player for me anyway. He's a go-to player for them. Again, Lee Keegan gone off, so it would have been easy to fizzle away there and say, well, look at. We weren't good enough on the day, but they did. They ground it out, and that's, to me, is a sign of a really good mentally tough team. We're still able to go and still able to keep pushing, and look, it'll be interesting to see what way injuries and stuff, how bad is Lee Keegan, but
Jason Doherty went off injured too.
He went off injured as well, which is again you don't replace these lads on a whim either. So. But as man says, they're still there. If they go play against Galway now, and I'd rather be still in it than And I think they do deserve credit, because the odds were stacked against them coming into that last few minutes, and they got through.
Yeah, Galway Mayo, 2 teams riddled with injuries going head to head. So we'll see how that one goes. Right, we'll come back with Paddy Power performance of the weekend. Okay, Paddy Power performance of the weekend. We have to start with Darren Cohen, lads, because it was almost a carbon copy of the Roscommon game where he just glided points over from difficult angles at his ease. He doesn't look like a great player. He's not that fast, but he's incredibly accurate. And if you're incredibly accurate, you have a chance at any level of football that you play at.
Yeah, and he makes it look, he just, some of the points he kicked, just stroking him over the bar.
Yeah.
He's really good, and and he seems to be cute enough as the brain to say, well, look, I'm not going to try to beat this man out for pace. I just sit into the pocket, ball comes back to me, and just drops the hip, and you nearly know he's going to be scored. He was really, really good for me. He was a big plus for Mayo. When they needed scores badly, he provided them.
Where has this lad been? They could they not have done with this fella in the 16-17 All-Ireland finals? Do you know what I mean? When the game is so close that you need a score, you need someone to swing you over one. Where was this lad?
Yeah, I remember asking this to Connor in the league when he was going so well, and he was like, "Oh yeah, people have always known about him." And it's like, why did you not get him in? Because he's got killer instinct, and not everybody has that. Like, very few people do. And yeah, as Johnny says, like, he knows sort of when not to go, and he knows when not to take on his man, but he always knows where the posts are too.
Yeah, he won't take on his man. That's not in his game. His game is kicking points. That's his game.
I
right?
think I love him because he doesn't have pace as a fellow struggler with pace, but he doesn't need it. He just wins the ball and puts it over.
Yeah, okay. Jamie Clarke and Stefan Campbell. Nearly for their Jamie Clarke for his second half performance when he was outstanding. Stefan Campbell, pretty much for the whole game. He's a brilliant player, and to think he's in and off the team, and he has to start for me. But just when the game was in the melting pot towards the end, he scored a great point off his left. Then you could see him in the middle of the field demanding the next one, and that's when he skipped past two players and kicked the one on the run, flicked it in off the right. That was inspirational stuff, and his tail really was up at that stage because he was celebrating his scores to the crowd. And Jamie Clarke, Stefan Campbell, Rian O'Neill, I know we talk all the time about the Armagh forward line, but they really do have exciting forwards, and have forwards that have proved against Mayo that can stand up when needed as well and have a bit of battle.
Yeah, they do. There's no doubt about it. But again, it's a bit like the thing, they have to make it count. And like you mentioned those players are fantastic players, and throw in Rory Grugan into that mix, and your hard working Jamar Hall. Like, they're names now. They're sort of names that roll off the tongue without even thinking about them. So, but again, they're out of the championship. So it's time for those lads to decide how do we get to the next level, where we're going to go, and there'll be disappointed men today if they're not still in the championship, but they're not. And we can talk about potential, and we can talk about, but you have to deliver, and you have to deliver on the big side. I know, and they did in lots of ways, but again, there was big scores to be taken, and they didn't, and that's the challenge for Armagh now is to bring that to the next level. But just on Campbell, I don't know. You think he should start every time, but every time he comes in, I don't know whether, and I don't know the chap, I don't know anything about him, but you'd wonder, is it a case of he's just, when he comes into a game, maybe the pace drops a little bit, because he ignites the thing when he does, because he kicks some massive score, and he seems to always deliver for them. He'll always come up with a score, and he's very, very accurate. I think
he's better in around the half forward line. I think he likes to get in.
He likes to run onto ball.
And he's a lot faster than you might actually even think. He's a very, very good player. I think it's hard to know with Armagh because they're in a bit of a situation like Kildare, in that 2 years ago they had a really strong team and they got a run to beat Kildare actually in Croke Park, and then Jamie went. Stefan Campbell had took a year out, and then last year they were weak, and now they're back having their strong team again, and you don't know what they're going to be like next year. You know what I mean? Jamie's going transferring to a club in London, so you don't know if he's going to be around. So you're right. I suppose this year was maybe one they should have really made a go for, but then again, Mayo away wasn't an easy draw for them, that kind of way.
Was last year the Roscommon game, that class game, was that round 4 maybe? So did he get even further last year? No, it all depends on the draw that you get. And
that got them into the Super 8s, that got Roscommon into the Super 8s.
So again, he got Mayo, but it just shows that they haven't really taken a step. They're still around that same area.
Well, that's true. I suppose they did need to get to the Super 8s to make progress, if that's what they want. I still think they made progress performance wise. Colm Boyle, lads, that was the kind of game Colm Boyle kind of revels in. Now he makes mistakes, he does some silly things, but he makes some great interceptions. I wasn't sure about man of the match, but he definitely deserves a shout out. He had a bad wide as well off the outside of his right. He usually sticks those ones over, but I thought Colm Boyle was very good. Peter Hart, lads, got 7 on Saturday. He got 4 from play. He was back to his best again. Johnny, you said he kind of had the freedom of the park, which is a weird one. Then again,
very strange one, yeah.
When these lads are dropping back inside their 45, you can't follow them that far. Oh no, you say you should follow 1 or 2 of them. Like Donnelly and Hart need to be tagged, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. But he was immense. He was really, really good, and he's a hardy buck as well. Like he ships a few hard tackles, and he doesn't seem to bother him a whole lot. He's one of these players that you think and you could play him in any position, because he's just a really, really good footballer,
Yeah.
And he's a major plus for that team. He makes that team tick for me.
Yeah, left and right. He's definitely improved his right. He got a good one with the right. Kevin Feely and Fergal Conway, were going to give them joint nominations. Conway was brilliant in the first half, maybe not as good in the second half, but Jesus, he talking about being an inspirational player. Like is midfield his best position now? Like, has he moved on from working wing forward? He started out centre back, didn't he?
Well, he would have played all his underage at centre back. Played a couple of league matches when he came onto the team at centre back, and but then played a half forward line. But again, sort of playing a half forward, but coming into that middle of the field. But he was immense, and has been. Like the goal he scored against Longford, he took it inside the Longford 65 and travelled through no one stopped me.
Yeah,
through the roof of the net. He's been really, really good for Kildare, and very, very, very strong. In the past, people would have been critically looks for contact a bit too much, but he's very, very hard to dispossess when you get, and his accuracy is it's really top class, and he had a really fine game. And without him and Feely, we were in a lot of bother on.
In a lot of bother. Yeah. Feely got a couple of inspirational points in the second half. Definitely really big good ones, and celebrated them as well. So you were thinking maybe there could be something on here, but
well, look at, I suppose you're trying to the big crowd in Nubers, you're probably trying to get the crowd behind you, and and he's very, very accurate off both feet. Feely is, and I think he's lost a little bit of a mobility around the middle. Like 2 years ago, and he was like a box to box player. He was up and down the field. He was getting on scores. He seems to have lost that bit of zip for some reason.
He's gotten very blocky, isn't he?
He has, yeah, and he he used to have that top gear where he just glide by. He sort of has regressed a little bit on that.
Right.
Maybe it's something he needs to look at, but his fielding, there's not a better fielder in the country than him. He's just, and even from a standing position, he can get to the clouds very, very well. He had a fine game.
Yeah. So Kevin Martin, lads, he scored 6 points for Westmeath. He got 3 from play. We saw all 3. Sometimes you're lucky on the Sunday game. Your package will include the scores you got. Other times you're like, for God's sake.
What about me?
But Kevin Martin can be a very happy man last night. All 3 points. So he could actually bullshit. I got a couple more as well.
Yeah.
But they didn't show him. So he got the inspirational type of scores, I suppose. Coming late on the play all the time. Wearing number 6 but playing wing forward, I'm pretty sure. But he's doing it for Westmeath for a long time now. Looks completely out of shape. Doesn't look fully fit. Like, I know he's kind of small and barrely by nature, but definitely looks like has a bit of weight on him. But again, lads, accuracy, no matter what, you'll always survive if you're accurate, won't you? Like, I mean, it's incredible. Like, for the Masters the other day, I got 4 shots at the goal, got 1 point. But I say I might have got 30 possessions. But you're not. You're missing shot. You know what I mean? Some other lads get 4 shots. It's 4 points guaranteed. Yeah. If I get a shot at the goal,
make the Sunday game then.
But I remember Maurice Fitzgerald in an interview a couple of years back saying that, who wouldn't be maybe noticed for his huge pace run. He said all I needed was enough time to swing my leg.
Yeah.
He'd perfected the art of striking the ball so much that once he had it in his possession, and all he needed was just enough to swing the leg. And it was enough. And that, I suppose, when you think about it, blanket defence and all that, but when you have that, if you're confident enough in your own ability that you've done it time and time and time again, you'll take on shots maybe you shouldn't take on, that's what the really top class forwards do. They just seem to step back, have a yard of space, and have a go.
Just stick them over.
Yeah.
Imagine the confidence it will give you to know that once you get any yard of space, that you're going to swing that over.
Yeah.
So then say, because even I even make the case. Do you ever even just play out in America and you see this unbelievable player that's never even played?
Yeah.
Like the accuracy of some of these fellas, like it's incredible. And you're like, you could have played in a county. I will never really bothered, or be fond of the beer. But I'm sure these lads are in every county. You're just having that accuracy. Paul Kingston and Donny Kingston lads were outstanding for Laois. Paul got 4 from play. Donny got 6, 3 from play. So Evan O'Carroll was actually dropped for Ross Munnelly, which was a big call again from John Sucru. But we'll see against Cork. Laois still have some tasty forwards, but I suppose against Offaly they got the space, and that's the big thing. Colin Murphy played well again. He got 2. It's having Paul Kingston against Meath, no space, out in front, but not able to have any end product. I suppose it's almost like a unique game, that game in Moore Park, where you're like, it's like a game we played, Johnny, back years ago, you know?
Yeah, and you do. That's the thing, that the longer you stay in this championship, the pressure comes on. You don't get the time, you don't get the space. If you're lucky enough to skip by your man, there's another man to meet you, and it's just every decision you made is made at 100 mile an hour, and that's where some players do struggle, and that's where the really good players are able to. That's the environment that they really thrive in, and some don't. And it's nothing. It's probably nothing got to do with physique or ability. It's just having that awareness, that, what do you want to call it, spatial awareness or mental toughness or whatever it is. They're just able to do that, and that's going to be the challenge for, as you say, for the likes of Laois now. You know, how will you will get the space against Offaly. Now it's another level. How will they, and
might get a bit against Cork, might not be too bad. But that's the thing, isn't it? Just to finish up on that point, is just beating your man and then not having the work done. Another lad's coming to you, and then what do you suppose? You just, I don't know, Johnny. You kind of came across this defensive systems more than I did. Like, I mean, it's just. Like, I don't know, your whole game mindset has to change. Yeah,
and for me, was you always had to be moving, you know, and sometimes the hardest place. So I looked at Jimmy Hyland, who came on for Kildare, and who to me is an absolutely brilliant finisher, and he's only a young guy, but he didn't get a shot on goal. But he won
way out the field.
He won a load of ball. He worked really hard, and the reason he went out, was out around the field, was he just wanted the ball, get on, make something happen, which is admirable in lots of ways. But you end up just being a link man. You know, you get the ball and you're flying it. It's to be able to come again, and you know, it's a bit like that. You know, you have to arrive. You have to be there. You mightn't get the ball, but if you're not there, you know, you're not going to. So it's making that second run, that third run, and all of a sudden then your defender lose you for a split second, and you have enough chance to pull the trigger. Yeah. And that's the way it is. It's relentless. You know, it's a tough position. Even the loops doesn't work against the defensive systems, because you come around the loop, you meet someone else. You nearly have to come around in the loop, then give another 1-2, and hope to get on the end of another one after. Like, it's almost like throwing it around like rugby, you know. But yet there's loads of, like, there's still been lots of high scoring games. Like, you look at the Tyrone Kildare, it was 115 to 222, which is, even though there's all these defensive bodies back, they're still getting opportunities to score. They've evolved now, they're getting through them, but that's a huge compliment to be played to the teams now, that they're actually able to get through these, you know, and they're committing more bodies to get through them, which is, I think, when they came in first, teams were afraid to put too many bodies up, and they were attacking in 2s and 3s. Now teams are pushing nearly all their players up to try and get through, bar maybe one. Yeah, and you were seeing games like, you know, 13 points to 8 and stuff like that. No, like 115 to 122, some scoring, you know. No, not if you're Kildare or for Tyrone, but they got 217 from play. Tyrone did, actually. Yeah, which is phenomenal kicking, you know. Yeah. So Paddy Power performance of the weekend goes to Darren Cohen. 4 from play, really, and he scored them when they were really needed, and when the Mayo desperately needed someone to stand up and be counted. And this isn't an isolated performance. He did it against Roscommon as well. So 4 from play, Darren Cohen, performance of the weekend. That's all we've time for. And these games are on next weekend, aren't they? Split. We don't have venues or anything yet, so we'll have to see. We'll talk to you about them on Thursday. Good luck.